Welcome to the broadcast. My name is John Mayfield, the real estate tech guy, and we're going live on YouTube. We're going to go over some Virginia state exam questions today. So if you're not from Virginia or you're not taking the Virginia examination, well, you can watch us for fun, but we're going to be covering specifically Virginia state material on today's live stream. Well, I want to remind you to be sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are trying to pull out state-specific information, national content. We will be aggregating all of this and be sure and put this in playlist on our website. So you can actually go over to globalrealestateschool.com, and we have a Global Real Estate TV link. And when you click on that link, it'll take you right over to our YouTube information channel. You can visit all the playlists and so forth there. Well, let's get into some of our information regarding the broadcast, and we're going to actually look at, again, as I mentioned, the Virginia state information. And so I want to kind of bring this information up for you so that we can take a look at this and go through some of the information for the Virginia state examination. So remember that what I'm actually doing here, and I probably need to come back and just visit with you for a real quick second. What I'm actually doing here is taking the outline from the testing agency, and we're just following the outline on what they are providing in the candidate handbook that you will be tested over for the Virginia state portion of the exam. So we're going right from the outline, and as you can see right here, I want to go back over here to this display. As you can see right here, we're covering in the first section what you need to know about brokers' supervisory requirements. And we're also going to look in part B at the disciplinary procedures and sanctions and some various topics there. So as we get into the broker supervisory requirements, just want to kind of remind you very quickly about a couple of things here. Number one, I want to remind you here that we're looking at the duties of supervising brokers. Now, don't make these exam questions too challenging, because really I think you'll be able to look at the information and pull out the information you need to know. A lot of this is pretty self-explanatory on the state examination. However, there are some key pieces that you need to know. And one of the items here that I want you to understand, of course, every place of business, which means a branch office, is included in this. And notice here each real estate team. So I would put that in your memory bank. Not only the office, place of business or office, but each real estate team shall be supervised by a supervising broker. Very important for you to understand that. There has to be someone in charge at the office over the agents, and as you can see here, even if you have a real estate team. Now, here's an interesting point. The supervising broker may designate another broker to assist in administering the provisions required by this section. In other words, if I had a real estate organization and I wanted to open a branch office, naturally, I could be the supervising broker over the main office, but I could put someone else in charge and designate someone to actually be a supervising broker or a branch manager for that specific location. The supervising broker has to, manage that office appropriately, but what you have to remember is this: it doesn't relieve the main broker. In my example, it would not relieve me of the duties and the acts of all of those licensees in the office. In other words, if I designate someone as a branch manager and they're not doing their job, and there are licensees who violate the license law in Virginia at that office, as the head broker, the supervising broker of the entire company, I'm still responsible for those acts. So I have to really stay on top and keep a good notice of what's happening in that scenario. So going on with A, duties of the supervising broker continued. You're going to, and I'm pulling this right from the license law, but reasonable and adequate supervision. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Things like being available to all licensees under his supervision at reasonable times to review and approve all documents, including leases, contracts, brokerage agreements, and advertising as may affect the clients and the business of the firm. And we need to ensure the availability of training opportunities and that the office has a written procedures and policies that provide clear guidance in the following areas. And we'll get to that on the next section. One of the items that you may very well see on the exam are questions about, does the broker have a policy and procedures manual in place? They may try to dive a little deep in this. Again, don't let these questions really scare you. I don't think they're going to be very challenging. You just need to read the question and understand that, hey, that broker or the branch manager needs to be there and available for training, going over contracts, over leases, and being available to answer those questions during reasonable hours of the day. Have a written policy and procedures manual. And if you see one of those questions, really get into, the branch manager didn't do certain things. Could the broker still be responsible? Or who's responsible for those acts? Naturally, the branch manager could be liable as well as the main broker. So just read the questions. I think you'll be fine as you go through those, and shouldn't be too big of a challenge there. Now, let's continue on and take a look at the guidance in the areas that they describe. You can see here, handling of escrow deposits in compliance with laws and regulations. We'll talk about escrow deposits more, but as consumers and customers and clients provide earnest money, it's your job as a supervising broker to handle those escrow deposits in compliance with the Virginia law and regulations. We need to comply with all federal and state fair housing laws and regulations if the firm engages in residential brokerage, residential leasing, or residential property management. They love to throw in questions on the examination that might be of commercial nature. And remember, commercial's exempt from the fair housing legislation. So just read the questions very carefully. But if you see that it has to do with residential leasing, residential property management, even residential brokerage, those are all part of the duties of the supervising broker. And of course, we're going to study about advertising and marketing guidelines under the Virginia license law. That is part of the brokerage firm and the real estate teams and business entities. You need to make sure as a supervising broker that you're following and taking care of all of those duties. Now, continuing on, we can see here, negotiating and drafting of contracts, leases, brokerage agreements. Really important for you as a broker or a branch manager to provide the training that your agents will need for completing sales contracts or completing leases. Lots of things that we will discuss and talk about. We've already talked about through the national portion of the course, but it's your job as a supervising broker to make sure those are completed correctly and And when you are audited, because at some point the broker will be audited, those forms and contracts will be completed in the correct manner. Now, one of the things I love to do, I use a program called Camtasia, where I actually can record how I like to complete the sales contracts and the listing agreements. And that way I can have these recorded videos available for my agents so they can watch the recorded video, complete the contracts correctly, and everything will be in order whenever that audit might come about. Now, you can see here in the last bullet point that we need to exercise appropriate oversight and remind unlicensed assistants of their limitations, whether they're part of a team or an arrangement or otherwise. So again, oversight is very important. And I think you'll see questions. You'll be able to answer those with no problem. Now, again, we're continuing on with duties of the supervising broker, creating an agency or independent contractor relationships and elements thereof. One interesting thing that I think you should remember as a supervising broker is that when you bring agents on, they're either going to be an independent contractor or they will be an employee. Now, an independent contractor, remember, they're paying their own taxes. We studied about that in the national portion. They love these kinds of questions on the exam. So as an independent contractor, you work your own hours, you pay your own taxes. You need to be sure that you enter into an independent contractor relationship agreement with the broker. If you're an employee, then the broker is going to be paying your taxes. They're going to be responsible for the hours and set the hours that you might have to work. And a lot of other issues and areas may come up as far as insurance and what they're taking care of in that respect and so forth. So keep that in mind. Those are a couple of items that you'll want to be responsible for as a supervising broker. You will also need to make sure that all of your agents understand and know when there are amended laws and regulations. Probably one of the biggest challenges I have as a broker is making sure that the agents know about new laws and issues that come up. It can be a little bit challenging sometimes when you have part-time agents and maybe some of those agents don't come by the office. But you know, as a broker, it's my job and responsibility to make sure all of the agents know the laws, know the rules and regulations, and really it's your job too to stay on top of that. I find that when I can talk more freely and intelligently about the laws and rules and regulations, it really helps build my confidence when I'm working with customers and clients. So strongly encourage you to remember that. And then, disclosing required information regarding the physical condition of the real estate property. Again, that's part of the duties that you're going to need as a supervising broker to make sure that your agents also understand those situations. Just ensure your brokerage services are carried out completely, competently, and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia license law. I think that's very self-explanatory. And then undertaking reasonable steps to ensure compliance by all licensees assigned to the branch office that are within this provision. Today, there are some great tools. Our office uses a tool called SkySlope. And what's great about SkySlope is as an agent gets a new listing or gets a sales contract, they can upload those documents to SkySlope. We then have internal staff who looks at all of those documents. They have a checklist. They're looking to make sure that all of those forms are completed correctly, following that video that we share with the agents so that they know how to complete the contracts. And then if something is not completed correctly in SkySlope, the assistant can just check that off, put a notation that, hey, you need to get this fixed, and then it goes right back to the agent. they have to get that taken care of, and all of those items need to be checked off prior to getting your commission check. Now, every brokerage office has their own rules and regulations on how to handle this. I just want you to know, brokers, part of their duties and supervisory job is to make sure that those forms and documents are completed correctly and in compliance with the license law. So I'm going to move over now. A couple more things. Ensure that affiliated real estate teams and entities are operating in accordance with the Virginia license law. Ensure that brokerage agreements include the name and the contact information of the supervising broker, and maintain the records. Very important point here, and I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to also circle it because this could be an exam question. For how many years? 3 years. So don't forget that. You need to keep those records and have those available upon request for a minimum of 3 years. So don't forget that. Definitely could possibly see that on the exam. Now, any supervising broker who resides more than 50 miles from the branch office, and again, this could be an exam question, having licensees who regularly conduct business assigned to such a branch office shall certify in writing quarterly, circa another, we'll highlight those as well. So 50 miles from a branch office, certify in writing, and that's a key word there too, quarterly, on a form provided by the board that the supervising broker has complied with the requirements of this section. So again, if the supervising broker resides more than 50 miles from the branch office every quarter, you're going to have to provide a statement, and again, that's in writing. Don't forget that. They love those little key words, that you as the supervising broker has complied with the requirements of this section. And as a condition of the renewal of a branch office license, the supervising broker shall provide to the board the name and license number of each real estate licensee affiliated with the branch office at the time of the renewal in a form deemed acceptable by the board. That also could very well be an exam question. I would definitely make sure that you know that. So a couple of quick things here on sanctions that we're going to pick up on in the next section that we do, and I'll be doing another live streaming. Again, just come back to Global Real Estate School, go to our Global Real Estate TV, look for the playlist Virginia State Information, and you can watch these videos, and we'll go on to that next video on our next broadcast. Well, again, I want to remind you, be sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel each and every time we go live. You'll be notified by clicking on the bell. You can find us on YouTube at Global Real Estate School. I appreciate you watching the broadcast. Again, this was Virginia specific. This will be in our Virginia State playlist. Check that out on YouTube. Be sure and follow us on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We have a Facebook page. We're also on Amazon. If you want to listen to our flash briefing, you can go there and ask for that. We're there as well. We have a great podcast we'd love for you to listen to. Many of our podcasts and our trainings, they're all about possible questions you could see on the real estate exam. Now, I do also do some interviews from time to time on how to help grow your real estate career, because that's part of what we want to do as well. In fact, we have a brand new program called 5 Minutes to Jumpstarting Your Real Estate Career. Check that out. It is a coaching program that I've developed where I have a lot of downloadable documents and letters and information that will help you be a successful real estate agent. It's called 5 Minutes to Jumpstarting Your Real Estate Career. It's at globalrealestateschool.com. We also have Help Me Pass the Real Estate Exam. It's national content. If you've been taking the Virginia exam and you have not been able to pass, then you didn't go to Global Real Estate School. So perhaps you didn't. We get lots of students who watch our YouTube channel and say, hey, I went to another school, I can't pass, can you help me out? And you know what? I had a lady last week that said, had it not been for my real estate exam coach, I would not have passed the exam. So we have that available for you. It works in all 50 states. And if you want to get your license in Florida, Hawaii, we're approved in many other states. Check us out at globalrealestateschool.com. Hey, as always, thanks for watching. Have a great day.